I get asked all the time, is teaching in America a blue collar or a white collar job? Because it requires at least a bachelor's, but it is so low paid. And the answer is there is, as there usually is, a class, gender, and race intersection going on here. Let's dive into more unpopular class history. In the US, teaching was predominantly a male role until around the 1850s. There became more of a strain on teaching, more of a demand for it as Western expansion happened and immigration. So they offered that the white ladies would be allowed to teach for about half of what the white men made, of course. The opportunities were starting to open up for men that were not just agricultural, that were becoming industrial, and women still weren't allowed to do anything. So there were very limited opportunities for women at work. So they just had to take the role if they wanted a job. But it is also because of what we've talked about with gender roles here, and that men are expected to be agentic, decisive, authoritative, competent, task oriented, and women are expected to be communal, nurturing, kind, agreeable, people oriented. Meaning that women, it was tied to their identity that if you teach, it should be because you love the children, that you love the work, that you care about the children. And if you don't and you do it for the money, then you're not a good woman. And this is true to this day. Teachers are about 80% women now, though superintendents of schools are still majority men. And you can see here, one of these authors points out, this is an article from Education Weekly, what other profession would expect a man to shell out money for their own children or for their own school supplies? Where, when a man complains, would anybody ever be told to take a hot bath and download a mindfulness app after a rough day? A really great book on this phenomenon in a lot more than teaching, including sports and a lot of other jobs, is Work Won't Love You Back. It's about how the do it for the love of it mentality is used to exploit workers. And in the case of teaching, it's do it for the love of the children, which is particularly weaponized to guilt women into being teachers without being paid or treated well. It was also a way to keep women in control because all of the principals and superintendents were male, and it was to keep these ladies in line and not causing trouble. And women of color have always been teachers in their communities, but they weren't allowed to teach in the same schools as the white ladies, and those schools were even further underfunded. And to this day, we still see racial gaps in wages between the gender gaps as well for women and men of color. And when the schools integrated between black schools and white schools, who do you think got laid off? The black teachers. Like we've talked about in other videos, another way to pit smaller groups against each other, to give some groups a little bit of power compared to others, which in this case was giving white women a job that couldn't really pay all of their bills, but at least they had a job, and that was better than how black women were treated. And we still see a lot of this to this day. Teachers, still mostly women and increasingly women of color, are expected to give everything they have and to care for the children while continuously being undervalued.